So I'm going to tell you a little story. It's about how great the bus community is and maybe a little bit about karma. So BG, the guy whose place I'm at right now, is that transmission that I'm working on that the bevel gears were out on. He saw a video of mine on the YouTube channel here, and he saw the video of Dan's bus. Dan was the guy who had a 4104 in Florida that I did a video tour, told the story about his bus being pushed by his toad when he got pulled over. But anyways, BG saw that video, and the guy's name was Dan. He said, hey, he lives in Florida by me. And he said, I've got the same bus, so I'm going to reach out. So he did a little search on the internet, and he found Dan, his phone number online on another bus site. Dan had posted his phone number for somebody to get a hold of him for something. So BG reached out to Dan, called him and said, hey, I got a 4104. I'm having some rear end problems. Dan said, hey, I've got an extra spare rear end that I got from this guy Kirby. So Dan met Kirby at a bus rally a few years ago, and Kirby had some spare parts, like things like that, rear ends and real heavy stuff that he wanted to get rid of, and Dan took all that stuff off his hands. So Dan offered up the rear end here to BG. Never even met him before, never knew him. They just have similar buses and live in Florida. So when I came here to work on this bus, that's what the original problem we thought was a rear end. And there may still be an issue with the rear end, but definitely the rear end feels tight to me, so the transmission was the big problem on this. So we're tackling one thing at a time. But anyways, so now that we need the transmission, Dan sees the video on YouTube of BG's bus, and then knows that he needs new bevel gears. And Dan knows a guy named Al Klein, who used to have a 4104. He sold it a few years ago, and I've met Al Klein at some bus rallies before. But Dan knew that Al had a spare transmission sitting there. So Dan reached out to Al and said, hey, can we get that transmission for you for this guy? He needs it. He's in Florida. He's got a 4104 and his transmission's bad. So Al says, yeah, that's fine. He can have it. And then actually, meanwhile, before that happened, in the middle of the day, my friend Tom McNally, who has a scenic cruiser, actually he's got a whole bunch of buses. He's probably got the best private Greyhound museum that's not open to the public. But Tom restores buses to like original seated coaches. And Tom sees the video from BG's with one of these buses back here. It's got the push bars on the bumper, and he's looking for him for one of his buses that he's doing a restoration on. And he's asking BG if he can get those. And then yesterday, BG said, yeah, no, he can just have, I got an extra set of those in the garage, and I'll just give them to him. So here's BG giving up bus parts to somebody else who needs it. So Tom's getting the parts, Dan's offering parts, Kirby gave Dan parts, Al Klein's giving away parts. So, it's all these people are just getting together in the bus world and helping each other out. And I think it's a real neat story, and hopefully that transmission will come through where we can get the parts off it or not. So we're trying to keep this other bus together without tearing it apart. So I just thought it was a neat little story about the bus world and how the guys are coming together, and this YouTube channel is helping people kind of reach out and connect and helping us keep our buses on the road.